It's Dimmer, a track there called Gettin' What You Give here on Kiwi. It's 10 away from 8 now.
The voice of the creative economy, Vincent Heeringa with Wammo on Kiwi.
Yes, the voice of the creative economy. Well, it's Idealogue magazine, but gosh, there's so many other magazines now, like Goods, NZ Marketing, now a website called stoppress.co.nz. It is the media mogul himself from HB Media, Vincent Heeringa. Good morning.
Good morning.
The empire
Taking
expands.
my name by deed poll to Rupert.
Yeah, exactly.
Rupert Heeringa.
Yeah. But are you going to lock any of that content behind pay firewalls?
I certainly am not.
Good to hear. We've
embraced the spirit of free.
Yeah. And
I don't know how it works as a business.
And then try to figure out how to make money from that. Exactly. So
to do that, you actually have to have, really, really specific content for a specific purpose for an audience who are prepared to pay.
Yeah.
And we might get there with Stop Press, but there aren't that many news websites in the world that are pulling it off.
Well, tell us about Stop Press. What is it all about?
Well, we bought New Zealand Marketing magazine, which is a 28-year-old magazine and had fallen into a little bit of a disrepair situation. Mm. And it seemed bizarre to us that an industry that's so dynamic and so important to New Zealand would have its own professional media as being a little bit drab and unloved. Despite the staff at that magazine were really good, but and we brought some of them with us, but it was just a bit unloved from the publisher.
Yeah.
And so we've given it a makeover and relaunched it, and it's doing okay. Was out on Monday, and people are liking it. But it's got that Cadbury piece, the palm oil saga
controversy. Yeah.
As the cover story. But in the process, we picked up a URL, stoppress.co.nz, and we thought, blimmin' heck, not often you get a URL like that.
That came with the business, did it?
Yes, it did.
And that nothing was happening with it?
No, and it's one of those moments where we all looked at each other and, the idea just literally, there were light bulbs above our head, and it was so obvious what had to be done.
Yeah.
Marketing, advertising and media in most countries is incredibly well served by media, but not so in New Zealand. So it seemed like a very easy step to say, hey, let's create a daily news service for marketing, media and advertising, where there's so many stories. There's so much activity going on, and there's always so much drama and conflict. It's full of egos and people creating things and destroying things and attacking each other. And, there's always so much news happening in that industry.
Is it news or is it gossip?
Well, I don't know. There's a bit of both, really. But there are genuine. There's a bit of fun to be had. For instance, at the moment there is a raging scrap going on Stop Press about the mix-up between Fairfax and ACP. So Fairfax publish lots of magazines, including Life and Leisure, who have picked up a cover that is absolutely identical to the cover of Air New Zealand's magazine, Kiora. Exactly the same image from the image library from a year and a half ago. Absolutely identical, a girl swinging on a rope. And that's opened up so at one level that's kind of like, gaffe corner, but it has opened up quite an interesting debate because the photo library that photo was bought from probably should have alerted the publisher.
Ah.
We don't know that yet, and we're investigating.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Real journalism.
That's kind of at the level of interesting but bordering on goss.
Yeah.
But a much more interesting and profound story is what TVNZ are investigating and reviewing, which is the whole commission structure for the way advertising agencies are remunerated. Do you know about commission?
No, do tell us. I've heard this coming through on the wires, but it seems awfully complicated.
Right. Well, it's not complicated at all. It has grown out of in the old days, advertising agencies used to be part of newspapers. And when they sold an ad, they would take a 20% commission as part of their sales effort for the newspaper. And then they started getting more creative and saying, hey, actually, we could also create the ads. So they started creative shops inside newspapers, but still they were paid by that 20% commission on the ads they sold. And then, the industry evolved, and agencies grew out of newspapers and became kind of entities in their own right. But that commission structure has not changed, for how long ever newspapers have been around, 200 years. So advertising agencies now will largely remunerate themselves by charging. So let's say, Glenn, Wammo, you want to advertise, you will pay $100 for an ad. The advertising agency will keep 20 of that and give 80 to the newspaper that you're advertising in.
Right.
So that whole commission structure is quite a arcane and many people say outdated model, because it doesn't actually reflect the actual work done by agencies. Sometimes the work done is trivial. They'll get an ad, a piece of artwork from an international source, and put it into a newspaper and charge 20% for, that's money for jam. On the other hand, they might create an ad and spend, millions on creative work, and so they'll need to recoup their money from other means. Anyway, what TVNZ is saying is, enough! We are sick of paying this 20% commission, or whatever commissions we're paying. We're going to review it. And what review means is a bit like sort of government speak. It means we're not going to pay it anymore, and we're going to investigate ways of changing the way that we that people will pay for advertising agencies, and it's not going to be paid for by TVNZ or by media.
Well, how is it going to be paid?
Well, a much more sensible approach would just be a fee, right? So you employ an ad agency to make an ad for you, or to put an ad into a newspaper or something. Why don't you just pay them a fee? Just like any other service that exists. It's how your accountant works, your lawyer works, any kind of professional. You just agree on a fee and away you go. And the industry's been kind of inching towards this new model for a long time, and it's fair to say at the moment it's a mixed model. But I think that Rick Ellis, the chief executive of TVNZ, is really wanting to hasten the day when he stops paying commissions and sharing 20% of the actual rate with an agency.
So, in your opinion, that sounds like a good idea, and it could change not only for TVNZ but other sectors as well.
Look, I have to wear two hats here, Wammo. On the one hand, I'm running a news service, so I've got to be fair and give everyone a fair suck of the salve.
Come on, you can have an opinion on this show.
Am I? Am I allowed to?
Go for it.
Well, as a media owner, I've always thought the commission thing is bogus, but and so I'd welcome the change, because I think it throws the cost of making the advertising back onto the client and not onto the media. But these things are complex. If the industry is like an ecosystem. If you take one little piece of it away, how is it going to change the rest of the ecosystem?
Good point.
And I know that there are quite a few ad agencies, small outfits that are they're already under the cosh from the recession, and now they're very anxious about this new structure because a lot of the way that they run their companies relies on that commission. So, there could be some real downsides for the advertising industry, and particularly for the smaller guys.
So that's just one brouhaha that's happening on stoppress.co.nz. But I see there's daily news going up there, and I'm finding it quite extraordinary that there is so much news going on.
Doesn't it just show the kind of pent-up demand for news and information in the marketing and communications sector?
Yeah.
There's so much to cover. I think there's a story about Kiwi FM.
I noticed that about Carl Stevens' new show right here on Kiwi on the weekends. Yeah.
So it's not been hard to find lots of news. What will be hard is to rise above the trivia and try and find decent news and business stories that are of relevance and compelling. And also, I guess, not necessarily just press releases. I suppose you guys want to give a critical eye to things as well, or? Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff in there that is just, because it's a trade outlet, it's just information, produced by the industry for the industry. So, there will be quite a lot of press release related content. But on the other hand, we also are writing lots of original pieces as well. So our aim is to put out 2 newsletters a week. So we're doing Tuesday and Friday, and those newsletters will contain original news.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Vincent, for telling us about it.
Very exciting times at HB Media.
Seems to be like a new product every week, but I'm looking forward to over the coming weeks to actually examining some of those stories that are coming up in Stop Press as well.
And if you've got any news, I should say.
But then send it from an anonymous email address to Stop Press.
do it as you like. We're hungry for information. Editor at stoppress.co.nz.
Thanks, Vincent. Cheers.
Thank you, Wammo.
You can also go and check out Idealogue magazine, good magazine as well, in NZ marketing from Vincent Heeringa and HB Media. Just gone.